Hello, we're Silvia, Vanessa, and Eduardo, and we are going to present malachite synthesis. The materials used for this practice were
one 250 milliliter beaker, one 50 milliliter beaker, one 1 liter beaker, one spatula, one graduated cylinder 10 milliliters, one graduated cylinder 25 milliliters, two large test tubes, two glass rods, one hot plate, one 100 centigrade thermometer, one universal support, two 3-finger clamps, one 250 milliliter Buchner flask, one watch glass, one Buchner funnel, one small pore filter paper, one test tube clamp, one section of rubber tubing, one small plastic petri box, and the reagents that we used were cupric nitrate trihydrate, aqueous ammonia 1 molar, one bottle of mineral water, hydrochloric acid, and distilled water.
Now let's talk about the procedure for malachite synthesis. Firstly,
750 milliliters of distilled water were heated to its boiling point. Then 1.51 grams of copper nitrate trihydrate were dissolved in 10 milliliters of distilled water and stirred until a homogeneous solution was formed. Then 20 milliliters of a 1 molar concentration of ammonium hydroxide were slowly added to the stirring cupric nitrate solution. A strong blue color on the solution was obtained. We added 75 milliliters of sparkling water slowly to the still stirring solution until we began to observe a precipitate. Then we divided the solution in equal parts on two large tube tests. The tubes were then placed on a water bath at 100 degrees Celsius and left there for 20 minutes. It was important to keep it at this temperature. Two phases were formed, a turquoise precipitate and a transparent phase. So we removed the tubes from heating and left them to cool at room temperature.
we extracted the transparent phase and then we filtered the blue one.
Using the Buchner flask and a pore filter paper. Finally, we removed the dry solid and put it on a Petri box. A small amount was placed on a watch glass, in which we added a drop of hydrochloric acid to confirm it was malachite.
At the end, we obtained 0.693 grams of malachite. As it can be seen, when we added the drops of hydrochloric acid, the product fizzed. Due to carbonate, minerals are unstable in contact with hydrochloric acid. When the acid begins to effervesce on a specimen, carbon dioxide is released. At first we added 3 drops of hydrochloric acid and, in order to have a better video to verify that the product was indeed malachite, we added more drops to the solid, but since the reaction had already finished, we only appreciated small bubbles that could not be recorded. Therefore, the final picture looks a little bit aqueous due to the excess of acid in the sample. And now we have some questions for this practice. First, what is the reason of the blue color when you add ammonia to the copper nitrate solution? The blue color is due to copper ions. A small amount of ammonia in copper solution generates insoluble copper hydroxide, so a pale blue precipitates. If we add more ammonia, we will cause another reaction, the ligand exchange, making a soluble deep blue ammoniacal copper solution. This reaction only happens with copper 2 ions and ammonia, so it's a property of both. In addition, the literature suggests that this color is due to the inclusion of copper, which is a very effective pigment agent, among their chemical constituents. This type of coloration is called ideochromatic. Now, write the chemical reaction between tetranamine copper 2 ion and carbonic acid. As we can see in the equation, we have tetranamide copper 2 ion that reacted with carbonic acid to form tetranamide copper 2 carbonate and gaseous hydrogen. In this reaction, we dissociated the carbonic acid, and the carbonate ion is the one that reacted with the tetranamide copper 2 ion, neutralizing the charges and forming the salt. And the last question is, what is the reaction between malachite and hydrochloric acid? Did your observations match the expected behavior of a compound containing carbonate ions dissolved in an acid? Pure malachite usually doesn't produce hydrogen because it is a copper carbonate. On the other side, copper is already in a higher oxidation state, therefore it can reduce to hydrogen. The reaction is the following. Our observations match because when we added the hydrochloric acid to the malachite, it fizzed, which means that carbon dioxide is released as bubbles. Then the acid changes from the colorless to green-blue as copper ions go into solution. The carbonate and the hydroxyl ions will tend to stay together when malachite is dissolved, and are in the state in the solution from which malachite grows. It matches also because comparing it with the equation from the previous question, if we add more hydrochloric acid, water and carbon dioxide will form since the carbonate ion separates from the malachite. In conclusion, the tournament copper 2 ion and carbonate have similar size, which helps in the formation of the compound the tournament copper 2 carbonate. Then, carbonic acid will easily lose hydrogen ions to release carbonate radical. We can conclude that for this experiment, effervescence was very important. Thanks for watching.